I want to talk to you about how to maximize mentoring. And really, this comes out of a conversation that Mark Cole and I had together. You know, Mark is the CEO of the John Maxwell Enterprise. And Mark was sharing with me that during this crisis time that I'm mentoring him a little bit differently. And I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. And so I kind of asked him, well, what do you mean by that? He said, well, John, he said, you're mentoring me a lot on perspective because how we view things is how we do things. And he said, you're really helping me to see a bigger picture than what the crisis is. Because remember this, crisis has a tendency to reduce the picture. It has a tendency for us to begin to go inward and say, oh my, it's happening to me, and it's probably the worst thing that's ever happened, and nobody's probably ever gone like this and gone through this before. And so Mark said, John, you're just constantly keeping a big picture perspective during the crisis for me. He said, secondly, you're just helping me with creativity. And the creativity is the fact that we've all had to change. A business is not as usual. In fact, for some businesses, not, period. So how do we get creative and what do we do when we can't do business as usual? So he said, you're helping me with the creativity. And then he said, thirdly, you're helping me balance realism and optimism. And, realism without optimism is so discouraging that we instead of leading together, we're going to have a wake together. And optimism without reality is pie in the sky. And there's that's not even right for a leader to do that in the fact of you have to give people not only a hope, but you also have to help them. And the hope is in the optimism, but the help is in the realism. And so he said, you're helping me with that balance there. And then he said, what's probably biggest difference is you're less instructive in your mentoring right now, and you're just more available. In other words, I'm just basically saying, Mark, this phone is, call me at any time. Whatever comes up, I'm just here to help you. And so I almost called this lesson mentoring during a crisis. And then I thought, you know what, that's a little too small. I've got to get a little bit bigger here. We are mentoring right in a crisis. I'm mentoring you today in a crisis. But there's a bigger picture there that not only will help us today in the crisis, but will help us tomorrow or when we're out of this. And so I'm just kind of excited about this lesson. I just developed it for you, and I hope it adds value to you because there are 4 questions that you want to ask yourself to maximize mentoring in the relationship that you either have with people that you're mentoring or the person that's mentoring you. Here are the questions. Number 1, who mentors me? That's very important. It's not only what they say, but who says it. Now, all 4 of these questions I'm going to come back and teach on. Number 2, when do they mentor me? And the reason, obviously, that question is there is because timing is very important. And there are times when we're more receptive to mentoring than others. For example, during a crisis, we're much more receptive to what leaders have to say when we're in trouble than what they have to say when we seem to be going along real well. Question number 3 is how do they mentor me? I'm very excited about sharing this with you because I think this is meat and mentoring that very seldom any of us ever get. So I went inside myself a lot on this, and I just said, okay, how do I do it? And intuitively, how do I share with you how to really mentor people to get a maximum return for that person that you are sharing with? And then question number 4, how do I maximize the mentoring? How do I maximize the mentoring if I'm mentoring you? How do I maximize the mentoring if you're mentoring me? In other words, after we're done, we're not done. And that's the thing I think so many people never realize in success. They think that, okay, I just finished that, and they don't really appreciate nor value nor understand the return on what I would call sustained thinking. In other words, when everybody else is done thinking, if you'll stay with that thought a little bit longer, the odds are very high that you're going to get a better thought than the people that just kind of said, well, we're done. Anyway, so those are the 4 questions, and I think that this is going to be helpful. And so thanks for being with me. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope I help you. I hope you pass it on to others. So let's go to question number 1, who mentors me? I want to give you some questions to ask in picking the person or making sure that the person who mentors you is the right person, because you see there is the information that's given in mentoring. I mean, the knowledge that's passed on. But the reason that who is very important is that there's also a spirit in mentoring. There's an attitude. There's a soul in mentoring that really has us to stop and say, it's not only what I'm learning from this person. In fact, to be honest with you, I think every person is my teacher. And so whenever I'm with anyone, no matter who they are, no matter where I am, I'm always in kind of a student mode, because I know they have something that if I'm listening, asking enough questions, they're going to teach me. So that's for everybody. I mean, everybody can be a teacher to us. But when it really comes to somebody mentoring us, that who question is really an important question, because that there's the contagiousness of mentoring is more in the spirit of the person that mentors you than in the words that they give you. So here are the questions. Very simple. Let's go. When you're picking somebody to mentor you, have they been successful? Okay. And just to be honest with you, I really don't have much desire to have somebody mentor me that hasn't excelled in the area that they're mentoring me in, because I want them to be better, farther, smarter than I am. By the question, have they been successful, just put the word experience there, okay? Because that's an experience question. I mean, that's somebody that has had a track record of success under the belt. Question number 2, are they right now successful? Now, this is a little picky, but I think it needs to be mentioned, because just like you put experience by the first question, put relevance by this. If they're successful right now, there is a relevance that they have that they wouldn't have if they had been there and done that. I been there and done that is the experience side. Been there and doing it is the relevance side. You got it. Question number 3, have they been tested and have they passed? In other words, have they passed the crisis test? Because you really don't know if the principles and the values that you talk about really have strength and power and stability until you've been tested with it. And beside that question, have they been tested and have they passed that test, put the word wisdom. And the reason for that is wisdom comes out of crisis and what we've learned from it. Wisdom doesn't come out very seldom of the easy days we have. Wisdom it's forged out of that crisis that we go through, that through that, it's more than what we know, it's what we experience, it's all put together. That's where you get wisdom. Question number 4, are they continually growing? I love this question. In fact, this is a big question for me on people that are mentoring me. I really want people to not only talk to me about what they have learned, I want them to talk to me about what they are learning. The difference is when they tell me what they've learned, I get experience. When they tell me what they're learning, I get passion. So this is a passion question. I want to be mentored by a person who is doing it right now, and they're growing right now. And there's something about the contagiousness of that in a mentoring role that is absent with a person that has grown, but they stopped growing. In fact, I can still remember a very important mentor in my life, very important mentor. I can still remember the day where we sat down and we were in a mentoring session, and all of a sudden the realization, it just hit me like a brick. It just hit me. We're having this mentoring session, and I look at this person that I greatly love, who has helped me in incredible ways, and I say to myself, they've stopped growing. They're repeating themselves. I was sad all afternoon because I had just outgrown my mentor. And that I just never wanted to do that. I always wanted that person to be ahead of me, before me, bigger than me. So that's a great question. Are they continually growing? And the next one, are they emotionally grounded? I not only want somebody that has all the qualifications I've talked to, but I want somebody that's solid. And the reason I ask the question, are they emotionally grounded, because I'm giving you one word by the questions, that word's perspective, by the way, is because dysfunctional leaders, and we're getting more dysfunction in leadership and in our culture all the time. Dysfunctional leaders lead out of their issues instead of out of a good perspective. You show me a person that is emotionally challenged and dysfunctional, and I'll show you a person who leads according to what their needs are, not according to what the big picture is. So are they emotionally grounded? Question number, I don't know, 6, which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6. Question number 6. Are they my sponsor? Now, I'm going to have to explain that one because there's a difference between a mentor and a sponsor. A mentor is pouring into my life and helping me, but a sponsor is doing more than pouring into my life and helping me. They're backing me up. They're in my corner. They fight my fights for me. The word by sponsor is the word commitment. I've had a lot of mentors. I've had very few sponsors, but I've had a few. In fact, about a year and a half ago, Tom Phillippe Sr. passed away, and he was a huge sponsor from the time I was 33. I mean, for about almost, not quite, 40 years of my life, he was my sponsor, which meant when I was a young leader, he carried weight for me. He paved the way for me. He was the John the Baptist. He fought for me when I wasn't there. He was always in my corner, and he was more than a mentor. He was a sponsor. He basically said, that's my boy. And you can't touch him, and I'm going to protect him, and I'm going to serve him, and I'm going to constantly look out for him. And if he's with me or if he's not with me, it doesn't matter. It's my boy. We're all fortunate if we can have a few sponsors in our life. I've been very blessed. I've had a few, not a lot, but boy, the few I've had made a big difference in my life. The last question goes back to really why I ask who is mentoring me, and that this question's huge, and that is, do they have a greatness that's bigger than their work? Now, you don't hear about this when we talk about mentoring. This is seldom ever discussed, but I'm telling you, it's absolutely essential. This is going back to who mentors me. Most of the other questions I've asked really are questions that we quite understand, but this one, that their greatness is bigger than their work. I'm talking about, what word do I use for that one? Their spirit, the persona maybe, but I think persona gets too wrapped up with charisma, and I don't like that because that's not where we're going here. Let me. I think I can illustrate it maybe better than even give you the right word. I had the privilege for about 12 years to be mentored by John Wooden. Life-changing. If I had to list mentors, he would be at the top of the list. And he taught me incredible things. I just live everyday principles he taught me in leadership. I remember the first time when I left him after a mentoring session, and he was in a little condominium, and we went down the elevator. Or I went down the elevator. He stayed in his condo, and I went to a little parking garage, and then the visitors parked out on the outside. And so I'm walking in my car, and I'm just about to open the door of my car, and I just had this intuitive feeling to turn around, and I turned around. And I looked up, and on the little balcony where Coach Wooden lived, he was standing there and he was watching me the whole time, and he was waiting for me to turn around. He didn't call my name out. He didn't even say anything. He was just standing there. He was watching a person that he had just spent 4 hours with. And I turned around and I looked up, and I'll never forget. He had that incredible smile of his and that wave. And I got in the car. And I said, I was with a great teacher today, but I was with a greater man than I was a great teacher. Wow. That's huge. That's mentoring that changes life. So, okay, maximizing mentor. Who mentors me? That's question number one. Now, when do they mentor me? Great question. If you were in my home office, just to the 10 feet from where I sit at my desk, there's a couple shelves of books. And those books are books that have marked my life. They are there on purpose because at some time in my life, I read them. They marked me. They changed me. They transformed me. These were life-changing books for me. I mean, they're not a lot. I really haven't counted them, but I'm going to guess 25. And I've probably read 10,000 books. I've read a lot of books. But these were books that marked me. And every once in a while, I'll just go over and pull one out and sit down and look at it for a little bit. And it's just a comforting feeling because they have been great friends of mine. Now, here's what I want you to say. All those books over there that marked my life, There's one word that keeps all of them on the shelf together and that word is timing. And here's what I want I want to make sure we really catch this. I pick up those books now and I read them. And in fact, sometimes I look and I say, well, that wasn't that great of a book. I mean, it's a good book, but wow, that's over in the marked me section. But then I take myself back to when I read the book. And here's what all those books have one thing in common: timing. You see, I read that book when that book spoke to right where I was in the timing of my journey. And so it was a great book, maybe not because it was a great book. It was a great book because the timing was right. That book was giving me what I needed for right now. That's why when we ask the question, when do they mentor us? That's a great question. Because sometimes you could hear the mentor say the same words, but the timing wasn't quite right, so they wouldn't have the same impact. Crisis, the reason I'm talking about it now is we're in a crisis. I think this is a huge time to mentor people because I think they're receptive to leadership. I think they're receptive to a crisis. And crisis, what does it do? It moves people. It changes people. It takes people out of their comfort zone. In fact, that's one of the reasons I told Mark, I'm available to you. I'm just close to the phone. Why? Because he's leading in uncharted territory. The waves are moving on him. And so availability is huge. But timing is so key. In fact, that's why we're doing these lessons here. This is a timing time. We're all looking for answers. We're all looking as leaders for resources. I mean, the things I'm giving you, I'm assuming you're not only applying them to your life, but you're passing them on. That's why the John Maxwell Enterprise is making this available to you. It's a timing issue. When do they mentor? Here's what I do know. This could be in a teaching in itself. I'm just going to give you the quote because I got to move on. Most of the things we want, but we don't have them. We want them, but we don't have them. Most of the things we want but don't have are just outside our comfort zone. Trust me on that. And so what does a crisis do? It moves us. And it sometimes moves us out of the comfort zone. That's one of the benefits of a crisis. If you're getting moved out of your comfort zone, if you have a good perspective about that, and you're willing to learn out of that comfort zone, and you're willing to look for opportunity out of that comfort zone, there are some good things that happen. So who mentors me? That's the contagiousness of the spirit of the person. When do they mentor me? Timing is so important. What's the statement? When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Okay, that's just, you got it. Question number 3. How do they mentor me? In this part, I'm going to really talk about, I'm going to talk about mentoring in a crisis, okay? This one's probably the most crisis-related of the 3 questions. So how do I mentor people right now? Number 1, they give me perspective. During a crisis time, what that mentor will do more than anything else is they'll help us continually see the whole picture. Because in a crisis, we see our picture. And they constantly are expanding us. Because what do leaders do? Leaders see more than others see. They see before others see, so they see this whole big picture. It's what I did a few weeks ago. Perhaps you're with me. We had over 1 million people with us. But it's what I did a few weeks ago when I talked about leading during a crisis. And one of the things I did is I said a crisis is quite common. Now, I wasn't trying to undermine or underestimate the coronavirus. I wasn't doing that at all. But what I was trying to do is to help everybody understand that this isn't the first crisis, won't be the last crisis. It's not even the biggest crisis. It's just a crisis. But the tendency is that for emotions to rule during a crisis to where we think that what we're in right now is the worst thing that's ever happened, and it's never happened before, and it's never been so bad, and it's just not true. My good friend Simon Sinek, we were texting back and forth the other day, and he said, John, listen to this, and he sent me a great podcast. And basically on it, he was talking to his team. And one of the things he said is, he said to them, these are not unprecedented times. In other words, I want you to know, Simon's saying to his team, don't ever think that like this is the biggest, worst thing that's ever happened and I happen to be living during it and I'm right in the middle of it. You see, when we're in a crisis, the number one question people are asking right now is how do we get through this? My gosh, how long is it going to last? How am I going to get through it? Am I going to make it? See, the question shouldn't be how am I going to get through this? The question should be how am I going to get better because of this? How am I going to improve? When the crisis is over, do I come out better or do I come out bitter? And wow, that's a huge issue. And so I want to get perspective in the crisis. I want to make sure that we have reality, but we also have hope. Alan Malawi, a wonderful friend, was the CEO that turned Ford Motor Company around. I mean, it's an incredible story. I think it's called the book, The American Dream. I read it. It's a thick book, but it's an incredible story. And when they were bleeding billions of dollars and Ford was in trouble, and there was a lot of emotion, and they were in a huge crisis. And Alan Malawi's calming influence through all of this. I mean, every day they're checking to see where they are, and are they going backward still, or are they starting to slow the tide down? And his phrase he continually used was, "It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. We're going to make it. It's okay, it's okay." Well, all Alan Malawi was doing is he was just giving perspective. He was not only giving perspective, he was showing perspective in a crisis. So how do they mentor me? Well, the first thing, they give me perspective. Number two, they share out of their personal life. Now, this one I just am passionate about, and I want to do a good job. I hope I do a good job for you. What I'm saying here is when I talk about they share out of their personal life, most mentoring is telling, where if I'm mentoring you, I sit down and you would maybe ask questions, and I tell you what I've learned and those type of things. And kind of telling is where you sit down and I tell you what I think you need to know. Sharing, and we're talking about sharing out of our personal life. Sharing is where instead of you sit down, I kind of tell you what I think you probably need to know. If I share with you, I say, you know what, just here, sit right beside me. Sit right beside me, okay? And I want you to sit beside me because I want you to experience what I experience. I want you to feel what I feel. I want you to see what I see. I want you to watch me as we're in this crisis. It's the power of proximity to a great extent, but sharing basically is inclusive. It's not, I know something you don't know, I'm going to teach you, although mentoring has that, no question about it. It's kind of like, I'm going to let you on the inside. I'm going to let you see me. It's what I tell communicators all the time. And leaders, do you want fans or friends? If I want fans, I'm going to constantly make sure that my level of excellence is so far above yours that you just can applaud me, but you can say, wow, that man is amazing, but I can never achieve what he achieves. That's the kind of leader that wants fans. If I want friends, I'm going to walk slowly through the crowd. I'm going to have this sharing spirit. I'm going to basically say, Come with me. You can see me. You can see me in my strengths. You can see me in my weaknesses. You can see me with my questions and doubts. You can see me when I'm strong. Just here, sit beside me. Sit beside me. That's powerful mentoring. And in this crisis, that example that you show people is just going to be huge in really developing them well. So, when I have you sit beside me, there are three things I'm going to just make sure that you partake in this journey. One is the source of my strength. If you sit beside me, I want you to see me go to the source. Now, I'm going to have to stop here for a moment and just say to you, you know this already, but I really always try to keep fairness with all of my friends because I love everybody unconditionally. People that don't have my viewpoints, people that don't have my faith, it doesn't matter. You couldn't stop me from loving you if you tried. Okay, I love you unconditionally, but I am a person of faith. So if you were with me, I would take you to my source of strength. I would take you to the well that I go to where I draw the water. And for me, it's my faith. It's my relationship with God. Every day I'm reading Psalm 112. And the reason I'm reading it is because it's fantastic, and I not only read it, but I pray it. And again, let me just say to you, just Put your fingers in your ears. You don't want to hear this, but I'm only going to be here for a moment. My name's John. You know you can trust me. I'm your friend. Always have been your friend. But when you read Scripture, it's wonderful. But when you pray Scripture, you put yourself in it. You put yourself in it. And I'm just going to just give me a moment, because in Psalm 112, and I'm not going to read all of it. I'm just going to read just a couple, 3 verses. When darkness overcomes me. Now, see, I'm praying this. I put myself into the Scripture now. When darkness overcomes me, light will come bursting in. I will be kind, merciful, generous, and fair as I conduct my business, so that all goes well with me. I will not be overthrown by evil circumstances. God's constant care for me will make a deep impression on all who see it, and I do not fear bad news, nor live in dread of what may happen, for I have settled in my mind that God will take care of me. And that's why I'm not afraid, but I can calmly face my foes. I will give generously to those in need. My deeds will not be forgotten, and I shall have influence and honor. I love that. I have settled in my mind that God will take care of me. That's my source of strength. In fact, when I am with my beautiful friends that I dearly love, and they're not people of faith, sometimes I look at them and just say, I just wish you had my faith. I'm not trying to convert you. I just wish you had my faith. Because that's where my strength is. That's where my peace is. That's where my joy is. I mean, if you have something that helps you, you want it to help others. And so anyway, I'm done. I'm done with that. I'm just saying to you that in mentoring in tough times, as they sit beside you and you're sharing, you got to let them know where your source is. And your source may not be God. It may not be Scripture. But what's your source? Where do you go for strength? Because you have to have a source that anchors and stabilizes you so you can do that for others. You cannot give what you do not have. Just can't do it. The second thing that I want to do when I'm mentoring a person during a crisis is I want to share with them what I'm experiencing, my emotions. I want to be raw with them, and that's why I want them beside me. See, if I teach them later, I may skip some of my negative emotions, because can I tell you, for example, with the coronavirus, I was over in Israel when it started hitting the world and hitting the United States, and my first emotion to this was anger. I was just mad. And the reason I was angry is because I thought there's a lot of emotional people that are leading, and now the leaders are going to have to respond to a bunch of fearful people. Now, I'm not saying that's the right perspective. It certainly is an emotional perspective, and it was a negative with me because I was angry about it. But if you're beside me, I'm going to tell you I'm angry about this. I don't like it. And then I got really frustrated because as I got back and everything began to cancel, all of a sudden the next 2.5 months, my schedule was all messed up, and I lost. I lost all kind of times when I could help people and add value to them. And it was one of my losses was I was supposed to go to the Vatican at the end of this month, and Pope Francis had given me the invitation to speak with him on leadership, and we were going to have a master class with the Pope, and all that was gone. And so I was extremely frustrated, and I was disappointed. Okay. But I had positive emotions too. I was invigorated. I don't mean this unkindly, but during a difficult time, the darkest time is when the leader goes, touchdown, hello, this is why I'm born, this is what I do. This is what I was born for this. So it's invigorating me because it keeps me in my leadership zone all the time. And I have creative emotions because I know there's an answer. So I'm looking for that answer. And I'm grateful right now because I have forced rest time, and it's helped me with my health. And I have a book on transformation, Change Your World, that I've needed to write. And now I've got time to write it. So anyway, But let them sit beside you and let them feel the emotions that you're going through. They need to see that. They need to see your good days, but they need to see your bad days. Remember, people don't want a perfect leader. They want an authentic leader. They'll connect with you. If you want to impress people, talk about your success. But if you want to impact people, talk about your failures. They'll let them in the seat beside you. Let them be close to you at this time. So I'm going to share with you what my source is during difficult times. I'm going to share with you what I'm experiencing emotionally during these difficult times. And the third thing I'm going to share with you is what I'm learning. because there are tremendous lessons to be learned. And I'm working real hard every day saying, okay, what am I learning? So when somebody comes and says, they talk to me about a failure in their life, I care for them, so I listen to their failure. But honestly, as soon as they're done telling about the mess up they've had in their life, the question I have for them is, well, what did you learn? Because the value of failure is us learning something that changes us. So, I started putting some things down on my notes on what I'm learning. I don't have time to give all of them to you, but let me just give a few of them. For example, a crisis will prioritize for us what we won't prioritize for ourselves. That's true. That this coronavirus has taken all the stuff that we've been doing, and it's just very quickly said, okay, now what's really important? What's really important? I mean, whether it's going back to values and family, or whether it's going back to relationships we have in life. I mean, what's really important? A crisis just moves us around, and all those priorities, some of those things that we thought was so important, we're realizing now that wasn't that important. So if we don't prioritize our life, then a crisis or something difficult has to come to kind of shuffle us around so we could look and say, what's really important to me? Another thing I'm learning is that uncertainty causes really more stress than bad news. I give the analogy of going to the airport and wanting to catch a plane when we could go to the airport and get a plane. And so you get there and you get to the gate and you realize the plane's late and you have maybe a connecting flight. And so immediately you ask yourself, can I still get on this delayed flight and make my connecting flight? And so for maybe the next 15 minutes, you're just kind of uncertain, and your stress level goes up because you're not really sure this is going to take on time, and everything's in the air. Everything's uncertain. You just don't know. Well, let's say they all of a sudden come over the intercom and they basically say, look, this plane now is going to start even later than we thought. And so they give us a time. And the time they gave us, we realized, oh, okay, that's horrible news. I'm not going to make that connecting flight. But the stress level goes down when you know you're not going to make the connecting flight. The bad news is less stress on you than not knowing what's going to happen. Because now that the bad news has happened, you say, okay, now I've got to make alternative plans. It's back into my control. Uncertainty, what makes uncertainty so difficult for us is that it's out of our control. We can't do anything about it. Another lesson that I'm just loving and learning and teaching is that respect is gained on difficult ground. It really is. If you're a leader and you lead well during this crisis for your people, can I tell you something? When you come out of that crisis, the respect they have for you will just heighten. The highest authority is not positional authority, it's moral authority. And moral authority is truly when you have been proven, tested, and you have done extremely well. After a while, you have an authority that's beyond any kind of legal ramifications. You have an authority that people just say, I follow that person because they've been tested and I've watched them being tested. If everything worthwhile is uphill, and it is, and it looks like this during a crisis, it's like this. Well, let me tell you something. If you can get through that crisis and lead through that crisis and help people get through that crisis, you're going to gain respect. You're going to come out of this with more respect from the people that you lead and more authority than you've ever had. Another lesson I'm just practicing every day is it's from the scripture, but it doesn't matter. It applies to you too. And that is give thanks in all circumstances. Boy, that's a relevant word, isn't it? Give thanks in all circumstances. It doesn't say give thanks because you're in a bad situation, but just give thanks because you're in it. In all circumstances, no matter what it is, because it's going to, with the right perspective, it's going to make you and I better. Boy, a lesson I'm learning right now is a crisis lets me know that if my living and my talking match. I write books, I teach, and I give principles out. But when a crisis comes, all those things I teach that just sound good that you write them down, they're getting tested now. I mean, are my values truly great values? It's going to be tested during the crisis. Are my principles and the truth that I teach and embrace, is it real truth? Wow. Well, there are other things I have here, but time's kind of getting away from me, and so it's wow. Well, okay, I'll give you just one more. Now, this is personal. I probably shouldn't give it to you because I need to have time to teach on it. I don't have time to teach on it, but I'm going to just put it in as a thought for you. It's good to realize that we're not in control. And it's bad that a crisis has to remind us of that fact. What a crisis does is it humbles us. I know for a fact after 9/11, because literally after 9/11, that next Saturday, I did a huge simulcast across America called America Prays, and I raised over $6 million in 5 minutes for that situation, and I put it through I put it through World Vision. I didn't put it through my nonprofit. I wanted to have a arm's length from it so everybody know I'm not getting anything out of it myself. And so we raised $6 million, and literally the next week I'm in New York City being led by the leaders of New York City because of what we had done. So I'm going through these areas, and I'm seeing the smoldering in everything that's happening, and so I'm watching. I'm observing it. And in that process is why I'm watching it while I'm observing it. There was a sense of humility among those New Yorkers like I have never seen before in my life. And I'm just telling you, it's good for me, it's good for you. It's good for all of us to realize that we don't always have the answers. We're not quite as big as we think we are. We're not quite as important as we think we are. And that we need faith and we need relationships. And that we are our brother's keeper. These are just things that center us and get us back to basic good values that are valuable. Okay, let me just wrap this up with the last question, okay? We've asked 3 maximizing mentoring questions. Who mentors me? When do they mentor me? How do they mentor me? I hope this is really helpful to you. I'm enjoying teaching. I hope it's applicable to where you are. Question number 4 is, how do I maximize the mentoring? And so what I'm going to share with you is 3 things, and because of time, I don't really have a lot of time to get into this. Maybe on another time I'll go deep in it. But I'm going to give you 3 words, and if you'll remember these 3 words and practice them, you'll maximize every mentoring experience you have. The first word is preparation. The second word is reflection. And the third word is action. Preparation. All's well that begins well. You preparing before you meet the person that you're mentoring is going to make a huge difference in their lives. I remember the first time I had the opportunity to have a mentoring session with John Wooden, my question more than the other question was, will it be a good enough session that he will ask me to come back and do another session with him? I read every book that he had written. I wrote down questions for him on a legal pad, 5 pages of questions. When I flew out for a 2-hour breakfast at his favorite breakfast place, we sat across each other in a booth. We had small talk for 10 or 15 minutes. He said, "John, do you have any questions?" I said, "I sure do, Coach." I reached in my briefcase, and I put my legal pad on the table in front of him. He saw the whole page was full of questions. He looked at me and said, "Oh my, you've come prepared. You've got a whole page of questions. Are those all for me?" I said, "Well, yes, they are, but those aren't all the questions." He said, "What do you mean?" I turned to the second page. It was full. The third page, it was full. Fourth page, it was full. Fifth page, it was full. I said, "I have 5 pages. I've got a lot of questions. You're going to really be able to help me. I know we can't get through all of them, but can we get started?" He said, "Well, let's get started right now." We got started right now. We left the breakfast table, went to his house by his invitation, and I left him at 4 o'clock that afternoon. And he looked at me and said, "John, we're only through page 1. You got 4 pages. Could we meet again?" We sure can. Preparation. All's well that begins well. Reflection. All's well that ends well. I had 5 pages of questions, but at the end of that day, I had 8 pages of notes. Now what do? Within 24 hours, I sit down and I take those notes. And I began to categorize those notes. Again, this is a whole teaching in itself. What do I need to apply? And I put all the application stuff I need to apply that he taught me there. And what do I need to change in my life? What did he say that I said, "Oops, got to do a U-turn here. I was doing that wrong." Or maybe I hadn't even started. I mean, maybe I need to change from not going to going. And so I put all the C's, the change things together. And then, okay, what do I need to teach others? Okay, I put all the T things there. And so I now, okay, these are my application. This is the things I change. These are the things I teach. That's all reflection. Now you see, I've got a personal growth program. I'm going to take maybe number 1A, number 1C, number 1T, and I'm going to practice that for a couple of weeks. And so now which brings me to the third word, action. You see, there's no transformation. There's no change without action. So there you go. Those are the 4 questions. You got them. Now what you'll do with them is you'll increase them and make them better than I gave them to you. But I want you to go out and find somebody to mentor during this crisis, or go sit at the feet of somebody that needs to mentor you, and think of these 4 questions and start maximizing your time with people. Why? Because you're important. And the more you maximize what you learn, the more you maximize how you can help other people. How did you get to where you are today? I would look at you and I would say, well, there are many factors, obviously, but there are 2 main contributors to my success. And one is my passion for personal growth and development. I know without any question that the books I write and the speeches I make around the world, it's all because every day I grow. I am passionate about growing because I had a mentor when I was in my 20s basically say the only way you're going to grow is to be intentional and do it on purpose. You can't grow accidentally. You can grow older, but you can't grow better. Growing older, that's just filling the days. Growing better, no, you got to be intentional on that. And so I developed a personal growth plan in my 20s that I still have today, and that our trainers, our coaches in our Maxwell team, they've been schooled in personal growth and personal development. So personal growth and development, and I'm still growing and learning today and expanding my world. So that would be number one. And the second, if you say, okay, well, what was your second reason for success? I would have to tell you without any question, it's the people who came into my life and mentored me and helped me. I could name dozens and dozens of people, some coming for just a very short season in my life. Some have been with me ever since I started my personal growth. I have a wonderful friend. I affectionately call him E.T., and he's 90 years old, and I will, this weekend, I will be with him. I'll go see him. And he's mentored me since I was, since I was 25. And so I've had mentors for life. I've had mentors for a season. But what I know is my success today is directly attributed to the fact that people came in my life and they made a positive difference for me. I want to talk to you about mentoring because this is, my life was changed because of the mentors that have come into my life. I mentor others. I mentor all of our Maxwell Leadership Certified trainers. I mentor them, and they mentor. Oh my gosh, they mentor literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people around the world, and they have a passion, I'm sure, to mentor you and to come into your life. So let's talk about mentoring. And the question that we have is how do we develop a mentoring mindset? How do we develop a mindset? A mindset, let me explain to you what that is. A mindset is a disposition. It's an intention. It's a way of thinking. How do we develop an intentional way of thinking that causes us to want to be mentored by others, and gives us a passion to want to mentor others? This is really huge. I happen to have one of my mentors was very well known, Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker was the greatest management guru expert of the last century. And I had the privilege of sitting at his feet. And I'll never forget the last time we were together, he challenged me and he said, "John, who are you mentoring? Who are you developing that can carry on the principles and the values that you love, embrace, and live out in your life?" And he just challenged me again to make sure that I filled my life with mentoring. He challenged me in such a way is that after that, I bought a painting, and it's in my office today, in my home office. And wherever I move, that painting goes with me. So it's been with me for a long, long time. And it's an incredible painting. It's not like a beautiful painting. It's not like an expensive painting, but it's a picture of an older brother with a younger brother right beside him. And he's teaching the younger brother how to draw. There you see the painting right before your eyes. And the reason you can see that painting is because I'm in Andrew's studio, and Andrew's absolutely best, and I gave him that, and he put it up there for us. But can you see the older brother is doing the drawing, but look at the younger brother so intently watching. Now here's what I know. The older brother gets great joy out of showing his younger brother how to draw. But that younger brother, he's going to draw faster and better than he would have if he wouldn't have had an older brother, a mentor, to come into his life and come alongside of him and help him. You know, Malcolm Gladwell is a wonderful author and a terrific friend. And in his book, The Turning Point, he has a phrase he calls the law of the few. And the law of the few, he says, is very simple. It's the leverage that a leader can have in his or her life by investing in a few people. In other words, basically, he says there's an amazing return. There's an amazing return when you begin to pour your life and invest your life in just a few people. And I love that. And that's exactly how I started off in my life, just in a little country church, just investing in a few people. And I began to see the return that happens when leaders invest in other people. So what people say about me today is John Maxwell adds value to leaders, you. And what happens when I add value to leaders? They multiply value to others. And so I'm so excited to share with you a little bit about mentoring and the mindset. And again, all of you that are Maxwell certified team members, thank you. You made this possible for everyone to hear me today. Without you, I wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be here. But let me just say, the person that invited you to be part of this teaching right now, they did so because they value you. And they have a real passion to invest in you and to mentor you and to take you to a higher level than you can go if you just do it by yourself. Remember this, one is too small of a number to achieve greatness. It just is. If you want to achieve greatness, you have to do it with others. So let's talk about mentoring. And one of the things I teach in mentoring is that the word mentor is both a verb, it's something you do, and it's a noun. It's something you are. So when we think of mentoring today, think of the fact, this is what I do and this is who I am. And you don't separate the behavior, what you do, with the characteristics and the qualities and the values of a person. This is who I am. This is what I do. And in mentoring, you get the spirit of the person, who they are, and you get the teaching of the person by watching what they do. So here we go. A mentoring mindset has several characteristics. Number one, a mentoring mindset has a passion for growth. The only guarantee that you and I are going to have a better tomorrow is that we're growing today. So when I talk to them about their future, they say, well, I really hope things really work out well. And I look at them and say, hope's not a strategy. The only guarantee that John Maxwell has that next month will be better than this month is that I'm growing this month. And again, going back to one of my early mentors, Kurt Kampmeyer, when we were having breakfast that day, and he looked at me and he said, John, I just want you to know, I want you to understand that growth is not an accident. You need to grow. And when I did that, I said, I've got to get a growth plan, and I've got to get a mentor. I've got to get somebody that's further down the road than I am that can take me to a whole new level. And so I heard Earl Nightingale say one day that if I would spend 1 hour a day, 1 hour, on the same subject for 5 years, 1 hour every day, same subject for 5 years, that I could become an expert on that subject. And I was passionate in my 20s about leadership, so I said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to spend 1 hour every day on the subject of leadership for 5 years. And my thought, because I was just in my 20s, I was a little naive. My thought was, in 5 years, Earl Nightingale says I'll become an expert. So wow, here, I'm on my way to becoming a leadership expert. So every day, an hour every day, 5 years, every day, I'm reading about leadership. I'm talking to leaders. I'm asking questions. I'm practicing leadership every day. And I had this idea because Earl Nightingale said 5 years I could become an expert. So I said, okay, I've got 5 years here. And so I literally started I had a countdown. Okay, wow, I finished year 1. I've only got 4 years left before I'm an expert. Wow, I finished year 2, 3 years. And, how long will it take? Well, how long will it take? Well, how long will it take? Well, 5 years. How long will it take? And then something happened just about in the middle of that 5-year period. And the beautiful thing that happened in my life was I was beginning to change. Because I was learning leadership, practicing leadership, meeting leaders, getting in leadership environments, and having opportunities to lead, about halfway into this 5-year journey, I realized I was a better leader and that I was growing and people were following me and my leadership was expanding, and I began to be incredibly overjoyed and fulfilled. And I thought, look at me. Wow, I'm becoming a leader. It was that day I quit asking the question, how long will it take? It was that day I changed, because now I was beginning to grow. That's the result of being mentored. You learn and you grow, and all of a sudden you're better. And I quit asking, how long will it take? And I started asking, how far can I go? How far can I go? No longer was I on a 5-year plan to be an expert on leadership. Now I'm on a life plan to become an expert in leadership. And by the way, those 5 years have passed several times now in my life, and 50 years, 10 5-year plans later, 50 years later, I'm still asking the question, how far can I go? How far can I go? I'm not even there. I'm not yet to the finish line. This is huge. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. You don't want to miss this. You really, really don't. A mentoring mindset just has a passion to learn and grow and expand. And I had one of my other mentors, and you'll hear me talk all throughout this lesson about mentors of mine, because honestly, you cannot achieve what I'm talking about without a mentor. You got to have somebody walk in your life and say, let's do this together. Let me show you the way. I had another mentor of mine one time when we were talking about growth, and he said, let me define growth to you, John. And here I am ready for some big definition on growth. And he just looked at me and he smiled and he said, growth is happiness. It's happiness. He said, you show me a happy, fulfilled person, and I'll show you a person that's growing. They're learning. They're expanding. They're still stretching toward that finish line. I remember I was mentoring a young man named Courtney McBath. It was my first time with him, really. And my first time whenever I mentor somebody is when I try to gauge how passionate they are to learn and grow. Because honestly, I could either spend time with people or invest time with people. When you spend time with people, you're taking time with people who really aren't intentional and passionate about growth. When you invest time with people, now you're talking about people that really want to grow and make a difference. But I like Courtney a lot, and we had a really good mentoring session. And so about, I don't know, maybe 2 months later, he called me on the phone. He lived in a different state. And he said, John, he said, you really helped me with my last mentoring session. And he said, I would like to have a little time with you again, but before you say yes, now notice how he valued my time. He said, before you say yes to mentoring me another time, let me just talk to you about the last session. When we were together in the last session, this is what you said, and this is what I heard, and let me tell you, this is what I learned, and this is what I did, and did I do it right? And then, may I ask you some more questions? Well, I said, of course you could ask me some more questions. Look at the return that Courtney he had such a passion for growth. This is what you said. This is what I heard. This is what I learned. This is what I did. Did I do it right? Can I ask you some more questions? Of course. To this day, this is 25, 30 years later, I still occasionally mentor Courtney McMath. Why? Because he has a passion to grow. He has a passion to learn. You see, the best gift that you can give a mentor is that you grow. The reward that I have, and I've had the privilege of mentoring so many people today, when I look at the Maxwell Leadership Certified people on my team, I get so happy because I watch in a few years how much they have grown, how further along they are, how they built their business, how they built their career. There's no amount of money I could ever receive that could ever bring me the return and reward as just watching them grow. I love to watch people grow. My coaches, they love to watch people. They love to grow. They want to help you grow. Okay. A mentoring mindset number 2 is where you continually desire to add value to other people. I often say to my team, you're either a river or a reservoir. Now, a river, the water that comes to it just flows right through and goes down through the valleys, and it brings water and replenishment to the soil, and it just travels and blesses the land. Why? Because it's going to where the need is. A reservoir, it's all dammed up. Nobody got help today by the reservoir because it holds water. It doesn't let water flow. And when I talk about desiring to add value to people, I'm reminded again of Napoleon Hill said, the starting point of all achievement is desire. And what I found is that progress, your growth and my growth, your progress today, one of the things I want to make sure you understand is your progress has a price point. And what I mean by that is when people stop growing and making progress, it's not because they lack capacity. It's not because they lack talent or ability. It's because they lack desire. They're unwilling to pay the price to go to the next level, because this is just a fact. You have to give up to go up. If you watch somebody climbing a mountain, as they climb the mountain, they're not collecting things and adding more weight to their climb. No. They're taking as few essentials as possible because the climb is hard. And sometimes to get a little higher, you got to give something up. You've got to give up to go up. And I can remember when talking about a desire, a passion, a hunger to add value to other people. I can remember, 20 years ago now, maybe 25. I can remember very well when my personal success, the success that I was enjoying, the joy of seeing other people become successful began to be higher than my own personal success. I mean, I had spent a lot of years being highly successful and been there, done that. And then all of a sudden I realized I get more joy out of your success than my success. One of the reasons I started this incredible coaching company, the reason that we began our Maxwell Leadership Certification Program is because I just literally got excited, really excited about your personal growth and your personal development and where you were on your journey. And again, with, I don't know, 40-some thousand coaches in 172 countries of the world, my greatest joy is when one of our coaches is making a difference with someone else. So somebody asked me recently, because I just turned 75, they said, John, what is your greatest accomplishment now that you've turned 75? And I thought about it. Was it writing books? I write books. I'm writing a book right now that I'm very excited about. In fact, I've written almost 100 books, I guess, and 36 million of them have been sold. In fact, they now say I've written more leadership material than any person's ever lived in the history of the world. But if somebody said, is writing books, is that your greatest accomplishment? I'd say, well, it was a pretty big accomplishment, but it wasn't my greatest. Well, how about speaking? I mean, you speak around the world. I've spoken over 13,000 times. Yeah, that's big, but no, that's not my biggest accomplishment. But how about all your honors and recognitions? Well, those are nice, but no, that's not my biggest. And how about the fact you're a founder of 7 companies? Well, that's good. Yeah, but that's not my biggest accomplishment. Well, how about money? You made a lot of money. Yeah, that helps, but no. You see, my biggest accomplishment is mentoring people and adding value to people just like you. My biggest accomplishment is having Maxwell certified trainers that literally, I mean, I mentor them and then they mentor people like you. And all of a sudden my mentoring explodes and expands. And this is my greatest joy in adding value to people like you. Again, I already know what I can do. But now I'm having a journey of my life watching what my certified trainers can do and what they accomplish through their mentoring too. So a mentoring mindset is one that continually desires to add value to people. A mentoring mindset has a passion for personal growth and development. Number 3, if you have a mentoring mindset experiences personal success in the area that they mentor others. Don't miss this. If I mentor you, I should only mentor you in what I do exceptionally well. There are many things I don't mentor anybody in at all. When people say, would you be my mentor for life? I said, no, you don't need me to be a mentor for life. Now, if you want to mentor for leadership, if you want to mentor for success, if you want to mentor for speaking and communicating, if you want to mentor to help you learn how to write, hey, I'm your guy. Or in this case, all of my Maxwell certified trainers and people, they're your person, because we're really good at this. And so you mentor people in the area of their success. When I equip people, there are 5 steps to equipping them. And the first step is I do it. And I tell those, if you're going to equip people in your organization, your company, on your team to do something, the first thing you need to do before you teach someone else and equip them is to do it yourself. And not only do it yourself, but to do it very well. Like reproduces like. There are 5 things in our passion, in our mission, in our company that we're really good at. We call it CLEAR, CLEAR. We're really good at communication. We're really good at leadership. We're really good at equipping. We're really good at attitude. We're really good at relationships. That's a huge lane that we work in and coach and mentor. Because what we know and what we've discovered is people do what people see. Stanford research says 90% of everything that you and I know in life, we saw it visually first. Wow, 90%. So it's very important for you to be mentored by a coach that does it. Is there something beautiful when that coach or that mentor says, here, follow me, watch me, let me show you how this is done. You see, example is essential in mentoring. We have a wonderful expression in our Maxwell enterprise that says, everyone deserves to be led well. I love that expression. In fact, I'm most leadership sad when I see countries, companies, organizations, teams that aren't led well. I look at it and say, how sad. They could live a much better life. They could live a much higher life, but they're not led well. So in our Maxwell Enterprise companies, we work very hard on helping our people know how to lead well, because you deserve it. If you're going to have a mentor, if you're going to learn leadership, if you're going to learn how to speak, write, all these things are important to success in your life. If you deserve somebody that really does it and knows how to do it, that you deserve to be led well. Everybody deserves that. And trust me, example is the core of leading well, because again, people do what people see. Okay, let's just review quickly. A mentoring mindset has a passion for growth. A mentoring mindset continually desires to add value to others. A mentoring mindset, a way of thinking, experiences personal success in the areas that they mentor others. Let's go to number 4. If you have a great mentoring mindset, okay, what you do is you pass on success through proximity and consistency. Both of those are so important. You see, there is a catching part of mentorship, and I don't want you to miss it. You see, who you learn from is as important as what you learn. My father taught me this at a very young age. He taught me about the fact that you're not only seeking information and knowledge on how to do something well, but you're seeking an attitude and a spirit that can be passed on to you by that person that mentors you. That you see, the catching part, the teaching part is quite objective. The catching part is quite subjective. But as I look at the mentors that I have had in my life, I've had wonderful mentors who taught me what they knew, and it really helped me. But as important as teaching me what they knew, there was the catching part of who they were that built within me the spirit of greatness. You see, there's the mind of greatness of what we know, but there's the spirit of greatness based on who we are. And that is based on proximity and consistency to somebody coaching you and teaching you, and you can see them and listen to them and ask questions and watch them and catch that spirit from them. One of my well-known mentors was John Wooden, who was in America, in the United States, was a very famous basketball coach. In fact, he was named the most successful coach of the 20th century. Very successful, had a college basketball team that won 10 national championships, great teacher. I had the privilege of having him as a mentor, okay? I'll never forget the first time that I went out to see him in Los Angeles. We had literally spent a day of him pouring into me, and it was so rich and so rewarding. He lived in a condo, and so I went out of his condo in an elevator that took me down to a parking garage, and visitors didn't park in the parking garage. They parked outside. So I went through the gate, walked to the gate, and I'm walking now outside parking lot toward my car. I get to my car, just get ready to open the car door, and I just intuitively felt that I needed to turn around. And when I turned around, I looked back at where Coach Wooden lived on that second floor of that condo. And there he was. He stood on the balcony, and he was watching me. And when I turned to look at him, he flashed a big smile and a wave. He just waved to me. I'll never forget that. I got in that car and I just said, I caught something. I caught the spirit of a man who's highly successful, who desperately wants me to be successful. I caught who he was. That was the day as I drove away that I realized big people make you feel bigger. there's a feeling that, they accomplish great things, and guess what? I can accomplish great things too. I just thought that was absolutely huge in my life. I'll never forget it. I'm very grateful because it taught me as a mentor of others to not only, it's not what only I say, but it's who I am, and it's my attitude, it's my spirit, it's my kindness, it's my humility, it's my character, all those things. That's the contagious spirit that you want to. So you catch a contagious mentorship successful attitude until one day it's yours, and you say, "Wow, I'm not only changing mentally in what I know, I'm changing internally. I'm being transformed. I'm becoming a new person." This is huge in mentoring. Not only what did they teach me, but what did I catch from them that just was such an incredible, beautiful attitude. My father, who passed away at the age of 98, he was the president of a university. And he was a great president, and the university grew greatly under him, and the students loved him because every day during breaks, he would walk out on the campus and he would talk to the students and call them by name and ask them how they were doing. And his attitude and spirit was contagious. And these kids, they just grew, they graduated from the university as champions. They were champions. Now, for many, many years after he was no longer the president of the university, he moved to Florida, maybe about 1,000 miles away from the university. But on a weekly basis, these kids from the school that they graduated from, they would come to Winter Haven, Florida, and they would call ahead and they would make an appointment to see my dad. And even when my dad was up in his 90s, they would come to see him and kind of maybe come to encourage him. And they all told me the same thing. I went to encourage your dad and I left encouraged. It's that spirit. It's that contagiousness of a mentor that I'm talking about. We really work hard with our, Maxwell certified coaches, trainers, to make sure that they have that spirit, that attitude within them that is contagious with people like you when they pour into and mentor them. The fifth kind of mindset and quality of a person that does well in this area is that they possess the quality of humility. They really do. Humility is essential because it makes a person teachable. So whenever you run into somebody that's been successful and they kind of say, "Well, been there, done that," you can almost mark it that they lack humility, that they've stopped learning, they've stopped growing, they've stopped asking questions, they've lost that hunger. Wow. In life, when you're successful, there begins to become a gap between the successful person and other people. And what I teach my coaches is you got to close that gap. If you want fans, you widen that gap. You're here and they're way down here. But if you want friends, you just close that gap. And how do you close that gap? You close it by caring, and you close it by being open and transparent. I don't think people want a perfect leader. I think they want an authentic leader. So you close that gap by walking into people's lives and talking not only about your successes, but talking about your failures. We've taught all of our Maxwell Leadership Certified trainers. We've taught all of them to be honest about their journey and about their losses and their misses and their failures, because I've had some, they've had, we all have some. In fact, I would just say to you, if you're being mentored by somebody that I've mentored, they're going to tell you that you keep success and failure together. You don't separate them. Now, our culture and our world separates them. They say, be successful, don't fail. Succeed over there. Oh my gosh, don't fail. Do it right. Don't miss it. And we separate success and failure. Success and failure were never meant to be separated. They were meant to be kept together continually. You need them always side by side because success makes failure better and failure makes success better. Let me explain. If you're succeeding really well, you're on a momentum success roll, you need to keep failure real close because failure will keep you humble. And you'll not become arrogant in your wins, and you won't become delusional in the fact that it's always going to be this way. So with success, you need to keep failure close by because it gives you humility. And by the way, if you're failing a lot and you're in the ditch, you need to keep success right beside you because when you're not feeling good and you're not doing well, if you keep success attached to your failure, it will give you resiliency. And resiliency and humility are two essential qualities in life that you really want to have. And humility, oh my gosh, once you have humility in your mentoring with your people, once you speak about your losses and your failures, you just breathe encouragement into people because now all of a sudden, there's not this gap between the mentor and the mentee and success and a person not yet achieved that success. We now bring them together and we close that gap. I was just speaking last weekend to 15,000 people in Las Vegas at the Thomas Mack Arena. And I was talking to them about mentoring, and I was talking to them about adding value to people and coming alongside of people and possessing a spirit of humility. And as I was teaching them, I taught them about keep failure and success together. And there was such an incredible response. And the response was the fact that we all of a sudden made the mentors human. We all of a sudden let everyone become self-aware that we're not there yet. I'm on a journey. I'm not arrived. I'm not to the top of the mountain. I'm not there resting, looking down at all of you, waiting for you to come. No, I'm still climbing myself. If you have a mentoring mindset, you value capacity and you encourage capacity. You see, we judge ourselves by what we see as our potential, but we judge others by their performance. In other words, I judge myself about what I think I can do, but I judge you by what you really do. And mentors, good mentors, they close the gap between potential and performance. They work really hard on closing that gap. And one of the things they do really well is they teach the 100% principle. I learned this from my mentor, John Wooden, who was that coach at UCLA. During basketball practice, he'd see some of his players not giving 100%. And so he'd look at them and he would say to them, I know you look a little tired today. Yeah, coach, I'm a little tired. I stayed up late studying for an exam, or, I'm a little down. My girlfriend broke up with me, whatever. And he said, you're probably not giving me 100% today. Or, no, coach, I'm probably giving you 80%. And then coach would tell them, I know what you're thinking. You think I'll give 80% today, and then tomorrow I'll work real hard. I'll give you 120% tomorrow and make up. And he said, I just want you to know, first of all, the most you could ever give is 100%. You can't give 101%. There's no such thing. You can only give all you can give. Okay? I had another wonderful billionaire friend of mine who said, all you can give is all you can give, but all that you can give is enough. And Coach Wooden was helping these players. He said, I know you're giving me 80% tomorrow, and you think you can give me 120%, or 80% today. I know you think you can give me 120% tomorrow. He said, that's not true. You can only give me 100% tomorrow. So if you only give me 80% today, you lost 20. You never get it back. It's just lost. He said, I just want you to understand that. What was he doing? He was trying to help their potential and their performance come a little bit closer together. I wrote a book called No Limits. And I love that book because it's about how to reach your potential. And I basically say you reach your potential through three things. Awareness, you have to be aware, self-aware. You cannot grow yourself if you don't know yourself. So awareness, giftedness, and choices. If you can do all three of those, you can then begin to reach capacity and hit that great potential that you have. One more thing as I wrap up. A mentoring mindset begins the process with what I call upfront expectations, okay? If somebody said, what's the key to effectively mentoring people? It would be, let's upfront have the expectations that we need. I had another mentor, Charles Blair. Do you see how many times in this lesson I referred to mentors in my life? Well, I had this mentor, and then there was this mentor over here. Look at me for a moment. Where I am today is because a lot of mentors helped me. I would not be near where I am if I wouldn't have allowed other people to come into my life and say, "Hey, I'm ready to sit at your feet. I'm ready to walk with you. I'm ready to learn from you. Teach me, show me, help me, take me to another level." On these upfront expectations, I had a mentor named Charles Blair in Denver, Colorado, and it is one of his favorite phrases was, "Have an understanding so there's not a misunderstanding." And it just said, just upfront, just have an understanding. So on upfront expectations, if I was sitting down to mentor you, I would have what I call we expectations. And we expectations is simple, very simple. I expect if I mentor you to get a return on my investment, and you should expect if I mentor you for you to get a return on your investment. In other words, a mentoring relationship doesn't work unless both people win. You win because I teach you things and take you places you've never been before. I win because you grow and develop, and it's incredibly fulfilling to me. Those are upfront we expectations. And then there are you expectations. These are the expectations I expect of you. I expect you to be ready. When we mentor each other, I expect you to come absolutely ready. I expect you to improve. I don't want you just to learn things. I want you to improve your life. I want to see growth in your life. I expect you to earn my time. Go back to the Courtney McBath illustration when he said, "Hey, our first time, this is what you said, this is what I heard, this is what I learned, this is what I did. Did I do it right? Can I ask?" See, what was Courtney doing? He was earning my time. He was showing me that he was going to give me a return on my time. So that's what I expect from you. And by the way, you should have expectations from me also. And my expectations would be that I'll give you my best. You know, I'll look out. I not only will give you my best, but I will look out for your very best interest. I want to mentor a life, not just teach a lesson. And by the way, the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team, that's exactly where they are. All they want to do is help you grow. They just want to help you get better. They just want to know that they had a little part in your life of the success that you have right now. That's all. That's the fulfillment. That's the joy that we get.
Welcome to the Maxwell Leadership Executive Podcast, where our goal is to help you increase your reputation as a leader, increase your ability to influence others, and increase your ability to fully engage your team to deliver remarkable results.